Ready.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. We are here today with S.K. Malveaux, who is the creator of Music Makers. Or I'm sorry, that's not a plural. That's actually a singular. Music Maker. And it is a fantastic indie comic that I have had the pleasure of reading over the last few days. I'm totally addicted to it. So we are sitting down with S.K. Malveaux to ask her thoughts and opinions and everything she thinks about, because she's awesome. So
That's just it right there. That's the whole interview. That could be it right there. I'm done.
That's it. We're done.
Like,
see you guys.
Yeah.
right on. Well, okay, so how did you hear about Crypto Comics Marketplace?
I think it was on Facebook. Like either you found me or I found you. One of us found the other. And then whenever I checked out like what it was all about and everything, I was like, okay, this is awesome. You know, this is like, yeah, like I just love the whole concept behind it, you know, and like just everything you guys are doing like on a digital platform. It's mind blowing and it's awesome, you know?
Look at Matt, look at Fry. They're all pumping up like, oh. Thank you.
I mean, I could.
Would you consider yourself an artist or a writer?
Oh man, that's you're just getting deep right off the bat there, aren't you? Well, funnily enough, I studied visual arts in college. That's what I majored in, and I did a lot of writing and I did a lot of playwriting, but no, I never majored in it. I did well in all my writing classes and everything, but I don't know. I'm still under that mindset of I still feel like I don't qualify as an artist per se. I think I feel more comfortable calling myself a writer because I'm like, okay, well that's a little less, that's that's not on quite the pedestal and everything because I don't think I deserve it, but yeah, I guess I'm a writer. So
okay, just so you know, M. Scott Russell is a writer. Wave, M, wave.
Hey. I love your writing. It's so fun to read this story. It's just everything is just out there, and it's in such a good way. So
thanks so
yeah,
much.
we love your story.
Oh, I love hearing that.
So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
About myself, oh crap! Again, like you're going deep there. Okay, so like I said, I started out doing playwriting and visual arts, which actually working those two mediums and then moving on to comics was probably the best training I could have gotten, aside from like probably a makeshift apprenticeship under a comic book writer or a comic book artist.
Mm-hmm.
Because it taught me how to think like a visual artist. It taught me how to think with how much creativity to give and how much control to put on as far as what I was writing. But then the playwriting thing, the best thing about that is that it taught me to love my ideas but not marry them, is the best way I can put it.
Now, I have a question. So with playwriting, when you're doing playwriting, because I've been in a few plays, but I never wrote any for sure. I'm not a writer. Just ask anybody on the team.
He can barely read.
Whatever, dude. Thank goodness for comics. Yes. So, when you're doing playwriting, does it take a lot of imagination to set up the scenes? I mean, you have to see how things are going, because don't the playwriters give instruction to how the scene should play out?
They do, and you can tell the writers who are real control freaks about that sort of thing, and then the writers who actually work specifically for that medium, because playwriting teaches you that what's in your head is like the blueprint, but it is ultimately going to be nothing like the final product, because you've got the actors' input, you've got the directors, you've got the stage, stage managers. Obviously, they don't get enough credit, I don't think. And then you've got scene designers, you've got the costuming. Everyone's got it's a collaborative medium. So what I write down Yeah. What I write down, it's not going to be anywhere near that. And what you hope for is that you give enough cues that it's going to be 10 times better, or they're going to run with it and really love it, and then add their little contributions and things like that. So that's the
So
way I go about it.
Oh, sorry, Matt, go ahead.
I was gonna say with Music Maker, how much freedom did you give the writer? I've worked with, or sorry, with the artist. I've had some artists that, they wanted everything written out as far as, how many panels, exactly what's in the panel. They want the lighting source and everything. Others are just like, give me a general description and tell me what you want to say. So what was kind of the collaboration in Music Maker?
Well, what's beautiful, and this is honestly just lucky serendipity that I found the artist that I found, and he found the writer that he found, because we both think in the same kind of visual way, in that we think of things almost like camera angles is the way we think of things. Like, okay, panel 3 has such and such going on. It is later revealed in panel 4 that so and so is standing next to so and so, and that's a really rough description, but that's usually the way I'm writing, is that I am writing panel to panel, to be sure, but I'm not saying, okay, and then in the corner there is a 2x2 there's a 2-foot by 2-foot television that's playing exactly this, and in the other corner there's this going on, and then in the top corner, I'm not that, like, I'm not holding on to it that much. And the way I'm able to get away with that, I think, is because of Andres and the incredible work that he does. He takes a few cues from me and then runs with it and goes someplace that I didn't even know I wanted, but I always love what he does.
So I have a question. So the iteration of death that's showcased in the comic, that really was awesome the way you guys did that. I love how you used used the color to bring out that. That was so awesome. So was that you, or was that him, or was that was that just an idea that you both had together to kind of set death apart from the rest of the storyline as it moved through life?
Well, I mean, I knew I didn't want to do just a straight up black and white comic through the entire thing, just because just visually I felt that would have been a little bit stifling for my illustrator. I mean, it probably would have been easier, but I don't think it would have been. It won't have quite the impact that that first issue has because of that. So I think if I remember correctly, the idea for the color was mine, but the execution of it and the way that it's so beautifully done was.
You both deserve the bow. Just so you know, Andre, if you're watching, you deserve the bow.
Yeah.
That was so excellent. That was so awesome.
It turned out beautifully too. Yeah, I was so happy with that, with the way it turned out, the final product.
It was a shocking surprise when I saw it, because I black and white, and then all of a sudden the color comes in, but the way you guys brought the color was so unique. It's so cool. Like normally, black and white would be showing the death side of a story,
Yeah.
And now, just brilliance.
Well, and I love the way that the entire panel isn't colored too. That also makes it really neat.
Sorry, Fry, I didn't catch that. What was that?
I was saying that I love the way that the entire panel isn't colored and just the characters. That also makes it very cool.
Yes.
Yeah. And again, brilliant execution by Anders. That was the only. I think I said a sentence. I said I just want the characters to be like, we had the option of like, okay, it can be like all Technicolor now, or it can be just what is like the afterlife. And I was like, you know what? I don't think many people have done. If they have done this, there haven't been too many of them who've like done it where it's just very strategically done with just certain characters and everything, and just certain parts of it were going to be in color. And so I'm pretty proud of how that turned out, honestly. So
yeah, it's fantastic.
That's awesome. Yeah, I loved it. It was so cool. Hey, I did want to ask you a question in relation to the answers that you sent to me when we asked you a little bit about yourself. and you started
Oh, boy.
comparing superheroes in relation to yourself. I would like you to give the audience your analysis of yourself compared to these
Motion
other
detected
superheroes.
at the
I thought
front
it was
door.
well done. I thought it was well done. And
Okay.
and the main ones was you identify, just where you started into comics and things like that.
Yeah, okay, I do remember where that was at. Well, because I mean, it wasn't that I had any problem or I didn't like certain superheroes. Like I grew up on Spider-Man. I grew up on, and before I could even read comics, it was the after school cartoons or the Saturday morning cartoons. So I had the dark kind of noir black Batman, and then of course the very bright and almost cheery Superman. But I couldn't. It was so weird because I loved these shows and I loved these comics, but I couldn't quite. There was always this disconnect. There was always this feeling of if I were a superhero, I totally would not be doing any of this. If this happened to me, I totally would not be this noble. I would not be, helping people out and everything. I'd be doing some really shallow crap. I'd be doing let's see. Can I use this to let's see. Let's see, have a good time. Yeah, I'm gonna work this out so I can do something cool and get rich. Yeah, I'm gonna get rich too doing this. And yeah, so
Real superhero, a realistic superhero. That's what I'm talking
exactly.
about.
That was
me in a nutshell. Malveaux, that's me in a nutshell. Thank you for defining my character. Thank you.
So, guys, it looks like Nephew Paratus on Facebook says looks fresh, very accurate, to the point. I like it. And then Dwight Calway does the horns emoji, which is a little awkward because we know you, Dwight. We know you very well. And now I'm just imagining him standing there, just doing this. I'm just kidding. Love you, Dwight. Hey, it's Dwight's fault. We keep telling Dwight to get on one of these videos, and he doesn't want to join us. He just wants to watch them. That's not fair.
I'm sure he'll join us someday.
Matt, what did you say? What'd you say?
What's your process in creating the comics, like start to finish? I mean, how do you essentially brainstorm everything to actually getting it out there?
Well, I mean, a lot of it is not being an empty well, and all the stuff that I've done creatively up until this point has definitely been an influence. Especially the comics I read, you can tell straight off the bat. I mean, I've said this a million times. You can tell I'm an Iron Man fan and a Hellblazer fan, and it's gonna be so apparent. The more this goes on, just how big of a nut I was about those comics, as well as a lot of stuff like the Tick and I'm trying to think of any other indie ones. Right, the Max was another one too. But yeah, my process going through it is that I do it the same. Like I said, I do it the same way I'd write a play. Is that I'm doing it in the sense that I'm writing it as if I'm seeing it in my head as either almost like a movie or as a stage, and what is most realistic for each character. So how would each character react to the same situation? Like with the case with the character Asta, she's gonna react to a situation of loss or heartbreak in a totally different way than Maestro's going to, for example. And so it's just being mindful and everything, and just doing a lot of little small exercises every once in a while, and saying, well, okay, well, what's your character's favorite food, or what's their greatest childhood memory, or what was, and just thinking about stuff like that just keeps me, keeps the clarity of what character is what and what character is doing what. And, it keeps that fresh in my head.
Okay.
Sorry, that was really drawn out answer.
No, it's a great answer. I like it. So what, I guess, motivates you most to really draw or write comics? And
I mean, I love
music makers. Or music maker.
Well,
gosh, I always say S.
Because it's about music makers. Yeah.
I do the exact same thing every time. Every time.
inspired this particular one was just it just came out of like a really novel idea of like, well, wouldn't it be cool if you could have like actual music or like a entire story visual medium as well as a literary medium, but then bring in an element that doesn't typically happen with either of those, and that's the element of sound and music. And then just running with it from there. I mean, another comic I'm a big fan of, huge fan of, and we do something very similar. Well, I do something very similar to what is the comic Chew. Like how everything revolves around food. Everything is like revolves around food and bird flu. And it's like I'm probably giving some stuff away. I'm very sorry for all the Chew fans out there, but.
Spoiler alert. Okay.
No,
Spoiler alert. I think we were too late on the spoiler alert. We're sorry, everybody. I apologize. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, Malveaux. Don't worry about it. I apologize. I take full heat for that. I should have put something up.
But yeah, that's like in a sense how it all revolves around one singular subject, but it takes multifaceted approaches to it. Is the way we approach music.
Now,
so
I just wanted to hit on something because actually, I remember when you first met our marketplace, and one of the reasons why I remember is because you have that music element, which is just phenomenal. And actually, just so people know, Malveaux is the reason that we added the audio feature to the reader. Which, Fry, can you actually showcase that for us real quick?
Yeah. So, SK, do you have a specific panel you want me to showcase?
No.
Where's the start running?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the audio playing right now. The stream should be able to hear it. That's so cool.
Oh, that's so cool.
I love it.
Oh, I love that.
And he's so conceited.
Picking that number was so just, it was so perfect. It was so perfect. I actually have Mozart in my Pandora, and so I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And I really like how it added to the feeling of the story at that particular moment. You know, it really accentuated the feeling within what was happening, and added a little bit of almost comicness to it, like comedian, like, oh, he totally blew it, and he's just freaking
real quick, just to catch up on the chat, guys. Lindsay on Facebook says, I love that, the idea of the anti-hero. She had mentioned that earlier while you guys were talking. Dwight says, I look awkward. Thank you, Dwight. Amy says that I'm a dork. Thank you, Amy.
Oh, hey, dork.
Let's see. JOZF on Twitch says, give us spoilers. It's cool. So I guess that's okay. Everybody's all right with spoilers on this one. And then Dwight came back on and said that audio feature is really cool. All accurate statements, I would say.
You really showed off that audio feature so well. Again, I just want to extend our thanks to your creativity and you bringing that to our attention so that we can improve our reader to really bring in, because what we're trying to do is take the the real world experience and translate it into the digital world, which is really hard. Mm-hmm. And elements like that, because of creators like you, are why we're going to reach that. So thank you again. You deserve one of these.
Well, and with this story and the music that you guys have really correlated and put together, it makes so much sense. You know what I mean? Yeah. If you're sitting there just enjoying the book, you don't think about like that 5 years ago this would have been unheard of. You know what I mean? It just makes sense through that story, and it's so cool.
Oh, thank you.
I think
thank you
something.
So much.
Yeah, I think it's something that everybody's going to be ripping off from you, for sure.
Yeah. So what? How would you describe your style?
My style, like writing, you think? Like
writing and your comic book, just the whole, just your music maker brand, if you will.
It's definitely I don't want to say that it's completely dark and completely moody, because you can tell it's not. Like off the first issue, you can tell, no way, no. Yeah, there is definitely
some of it a little too much.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, oh yeah, now let's go party.
We have a creator that actually read the first 2 issues, and I'm not sure if I should say his name because he didn't leave this as a review, but he hit it on the point. I think he said it's if Tank Girl had shown up in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas during an acid trip. And that made that's such a perfect way to review it.
That was one of the reviews. That was one of the reviews, right, Fry?
No, it was something one of the creators had actually just told me. He didn't leave it as a review in the system. I told him he should.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it was.
That hits it on the head.
Yeah. Speaking of which, when are you guys gonna remake Tank Girl? Because I think you need to now.
Yeah, right? Oh my god! And I'm such a Tank Girl fan too. Like one of the when I went to Tate's in Florida, I got a Tank Girl variant. Was one of the things that I actually picked up while I was there and everything. Because yeah, I love Tank Girl's the reason that I like Gorillas as much as I do, is because they were doing the kind of the same thing in that they're they created a band literally from scratch, literally drew out a band and made it and so and because of Tank Girl, that's the whole reason that I was fascinated with them. So that was an awesome compliment.
Well, it makes sense too, in the weirdest way possible. It totally made sense. So
yeah. So I guess I probably should talk about the drug aspect of it, because that is something that it's fairly prominent and stays fairly prominent throughout the whole thing. I was always a big fan of the club kids. I was too young to actually be a part of that scene, unfortunately, in New York. But I was always a big fan, and I always thought that they're kind of homemade celebrity was always something really interesting, and that was a lot of that, and a lot of what it became was funneled into Maestro in a lot of ways, in that the excessive amount of drugs to the point where it's this person has to be at least a little suicidal, because there's no reason why they would take that many drugs if they're doing that. And then the other thing was that that very narcissistic just someone who walks past a mirror and cannot help but lock eyes with themselves the entire time as they're walking past a mirror, that that level of narcissistic. So
I love that he's always correcting everybody. 168. Actually, that's so awesome. Exactly. I know somebody like that. No, it's not you, Fry.
I feel like that might have been a dig.
Worry. It's not you, Fry.
I feel attacked.
I got your number.
I love that. I love that about your character, man. I love the fact that he's a hero, and I'm seeing that build. His decision making process isn't driven by moral and ethical values, but it's so wonderful how he's starting to start down this path almost begrudgingly, because he's too smart for it.
Yeah,
he knows it. And that's kind of the comedy I see, and I have a dark sense of humor, so unfortunately,
and that is why. And
I love it.
And that is it. That is it. If I had to hit the nail, you'd hit the nail on the head as far as the humor is just very, very dark. It is pitch black. It's why can't I see in here? Oh, it's the humor.
Yeah. There's a lot of humor around that. There's a lot of humor in Music Maker. It's just once you get on it, man, you're just you're catching all the inside jokes that you're laying down. I love it. So did you talk to Andre and see if those were Easter eggs that I saw on the second cover?
No, I didn't, but I'm gonna but I know,
Why
I'm
did he
like
put
failure.
no nose? I want to know why there's a no nose on the cover. It's driving me crazy.
It's probably, if you caught it, then it probably was intentional, because a lot of the visual Easter eggs, and there's quite a few of them that he put in there. It's all him, and it's stuff like, it's these cute little, like, okay, for again, spoiler, for
spoiler
the
alert. Okay, go ahead.
Spoiler alert for for issue 2. Whenever there's a concert scene, that's all I have to say on that. There's a concert scene, and one of the girls in the crowd has a tattoo that says the Q method, and I'm just
I was picking up on the Q method all over the place. It was so awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I just love the way he does that.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. So your artist is Andre
Quesada.
Quesada. Okay, we just want to make sure we give a shout out to Andre Quesada. Great job on Maker. Excellent. I'm huge into art. I love art. I'm not an art or a writer like Matt, and I'm not an artist like Fry, but I just love art. And so the art that I've been seeing, the style, really dug the cover 3 and the color schemes. Is that a colorist, or is that the?
No, that's him. That's him.
That's him.
That's cool. Yeah.
Awesome.
Isn't that sick?
So awesome.
He came to me, and he showed me the stuff, and he said, okay, well, we can do it like, the normal colors, the way we have been doing, for the typical of it. He goes, but what about this kind of like creepy color palette? And I'm like, oh my God, no, do that. And it just turned out, and I think it's going to turn out, because issue 3 isn't out yet, but it's going to be. But yeah, and the way it's going to turn out, I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic.
Wait. So spoiler alert. So the cover 3 color palette is going to be used in when you guys use color scenes in the comic, or?
No.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I was reading in. I was getting outside.
No.
I'm going to jump in real quick, guys, and catch up on the chat here. Okay. So Lindsay says, nothing sets a tone like an amazing soundtrack. I love it. That's cool, Lindsay. Definitely. I think we all agree to that one.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Josh says, seems interesting. Let's see. Josie says, the characters are so raw, so fantastic. That's very much true. Thank you, Jo.
Cool.
Josh then says, so this is your cover? Yep. I can switch back over to the covers real quick so you can see them again. Sorry, guys. We're usually much faster at keeping up on the chat and these things, but we're running fast for this one.
You're doing great, Fry.
Josh also says, good use of black and white. That's very true. I'm not sure if you were in the conversation earlier, Josh, but we were actually bringing up how they're also using color to bring out key elements of the storyline. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
That's probably
that's actually it perfectly, because it's not solely going to be for just the afterlife or things like that. It's going to be whenever you need to pay attention to something, as well as whenever the story merits it. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, very cool.
So nicely done, Malveaux. So nicely done.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Yeah, I didn't draw it, but point is, yeah. I was a part of it.
Never take away from how you inspired that. You know what I'm saying? Never take away. It takes from one thing I've learned, it takes a conglomerate of talent to produce a comic. And there's people out there, like we just talked with TCT Comics, and they do all their own stuff, which is incredible. But for the most part, a lot of people rely on multiple channels, and so that is incredible what you guys go through. An administrative process. It's incredible.
Thank you.
Well,
how did you
go ahead, man.
What was that?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was asked, how did you first meet and connect with Andre?
Oh man, so this is always the best story. Well, we met via DeviantArt. I posted a job. I had this little script that I didn't know if it was going anywhere, and I just said, hey, I gave two two one slightly regrettable descriptions of what I was looking for in an artist for this particular comic, because it's not the sort of story that could have been like the guy, well, whoever is, I don't know who it is exactly. I think his name is Tedeschi, I want to say. Whoever did the Powerpuff Girls could not have done Music Maker. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
Or just
I could see Mojo Jojo
like,
showing up on a page, though. I'm just going to throw that out there.
I was about to say, wait, what are we saying about the Powerpuff Girls? I'm sorry. Big fan. Mojo.
No, I'm not knocking
Jojo.
Yes. But I'm just saying, like, they wouldn't have, well, it wouldn't have been Music Maker had it been, you know, yeah, okay. See, that's what I meant. I wasn't knocking them. Like, come on. Anyway, but so the two descriptions that I gave was, one, I was kind of going for Peter Chung, Aeon Flux kind of feel, and then secondly, and this is what got me into trouble. Was I said no, and it has to be not safe for work because of the subject matter of the story. I got like this flood, this tsunami of like, yeah, you can imagine, like it was like everything from like, you know, bondage, Wonder Woman, to like furry porn. It was just bad. It was almost all sexual too. Oh my God. And I was like, and I'm like, okay. And you know, and the terrible part is that it wasn't bad art. It was just like, it was just the subject matter where I was like, well, yeah, you sure as hell couldn't watch that at work, but I mean, and then
it sounds a lot like Matt Russell's bookshelf that he's hiding off camera there. That's
right. Yeah.
I only have a swear jar and a couple of pictures and a couple of figurines.
Right.
Come on.
We're on to you. We know why your background changes every video.
Oh wow. So was Andre in the middle of all this? Did he submit along with everybody else or something?
No, he submitted some stuff, but what actually made me convinced that he was the guy that had to do this was and it was just one little character study that I'd done, and it wasn't a superhero. It wasn't, because you can tell, like, if you check on his DeviantArt page, he's a big Frank Miller fan, and so it wasn't like Batman. It wasn't you know, it wasn't Batman. It wasn't Robin. It wasn't anything. It was just a woman holding a coffee. But just the way he had done it, and the way it was like so realistic, but at the same time just distorted enough where it had that kind of feel. And I saw that, I'm like, you've got to do this. Like, I mean, cool. There's no way I will come to your house if I need to. Like, you have to illustrate this. Like, this is the only way it's going to go down. And yeah, so that's how I ended up finding him.
You stalked him into doing it?
Pretty much, yeah. Well, no, I you know, I kind of sweetened the deal and just said, this is pretty. We might do the music thing. We might do the color thing. You know, just like sliding in like as many like perks as I possibly could to get him to like agree. And yeah. So it was like just me. It was me cyber stalking him for a while, and then he caved. So it was awesome. Well, but yeah.
I cyber stalked you for a short amount of time to get you into the marketplace. So I understand. I understand. You feel awkward for a second, but you're like, you're so talented. Please. My precious. Oh my gosh. No, freaking love it. Freaking love. Well, you guys are awesome. What you guys have created is fantastic. So freaking fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
So I think we just asked what motivates you, but are you inspired by any particular works or creators?
Oh wow, works of creative. Well, I mean, there's you know, you gotta say Stan Lee because you just have to. You know, it's like yeah, I know. Don't even.
There's two people here that would hurt us both if we didn't acknowledge Stan Lee.
Oh, so it's like that. Okay. Well,
yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, no, like Stan Lee, Jack Kirby. Who else? Trying to think now. I'm blanking on names, and I feel I'll think of a million of them the second this is done. But Gail Simone, I think, is a pretty decent one. Marjorie Liu, which my stuff is like nothing like hers, but I do like the kind of work that she puts out. And yeah, like yeah, I mean there's way too many to mention, and yeah, like I can
let me help your memory a bit, and then you can expound on how these particular ones because Peter Chung, Spawn, Batwoman, Daredevil, Deathstroke, Neil Gaiman.
Gaiman. Oh yeah. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot Neil Gaiman. Yeah, so he was like because the Sandman series it's like the go-to for a lot of people, especially like it's the comics for people who don't read comics, if that makes sense, because it's more like a surrealist painting than it is like a comic book in a lot of ways, at least the way he writes. And I don't know if he just put this out or whether I picked up a copy. It's called Snow, Apples, and Glass, I believe, or Apple Snow. I might have gotten those mixed up, like with the order of that, but it's like a retelling of Snow White. And the artist that he had working with everything looks kind of like how do I want to say this? Like a very well illustrated like fairy tale almost. Like it has this it has a very surreal like vibe to it and everything. But almost everything he writes has like this kind of mysticism and this kind of just a ethereal quality to it, and I really dig that too. And Spawn was, yeah.
So just so everybody understands, I asked Malveaux some questions and I have the answers. And I'm helping her remember some of these names. So it's not me coming up with these. These are actually people that Malveaux actually told me about. David Bowie. What do you like about David Bowie?
I know a conspiracy when I see one.
See what?
I know a conspiracy when I see one.
Wait a minute. It's still a theory.
So to catch up on chat real quick, we got, I'm probably going to butcher this name, Basil, says watching from Cameroon, Africa. That's pretty cool.
Basil! Yeah, buddy! Woo!
We got Matthew saying, look, kids, it's Wolverine. And he's not wrong.
What?
Your Wolfie chops. They show very well on the stream. Let's see. Basil comes back and says, I like the black and white style of the comic. Yes, very much. We were just speaking about that and the use of color in specific areas, and it's really rad. If you have a chance to check it out, definitely do. And JOZ jumps back on and says, love, love, love Neil, which everyone does. You know?
Yeah,
everyone.
We all do. Yeah, just worship him. But David Bowie. I definitely gotta give probably everything because I still say this to this day, and this is still gonna be like one of the watermarks. The three watermarks that I'm hoping to do with this comic are, one, I want an old school like MTV animation, and I want that so badly, and that's gonna I'm like.
Well, I think you hit the Aeon Flux right on the head. I mean, perfectly there.
No, Aeon Flux, yes, but heavy metal. I mean, there were so many great ones.
Yes, exactly, and then two, I would love to see action figures because and not dolls. I mean action figures. Damn it. Because I see my mom being the kind of person to buy those kinds of action figures for me, and so I'm guessing that it would be that kind of parent and everything, and a lot of adults. But and then the third thing is that I would love to have Iman's blessing at some point to just like maybe have even a reference to David Bowie and everything, because I think that if he were still around, this is the sort of thing he'd be going nuts for, you know.
Well, I was just gonna say it's interesting because when I saw that name, some of the style, follows some of David Bowie's style, and when I saw the name, I was like, oh my gosh, that makes a lot of sense. And I was, again, just a testament to how you and your team are working together to bring this comic to fruition. I mean, truly is amazing because through learning more about you, I'm able to see how you're really able to translate the things that you have, that have inspired you and impacted you, and it's coming out in your work just brilliantly.
Thanks. Awesome.
Pretty awesome.
I love hearing that.
Well, I'll keep dishing it out. Don't worry. Because you're awesome, and you make it so we get to read good comics. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I just wish we could bottle his positivity. You know what I mean?
Dude, nobody will buy it.
It would be outlawed. Okay, it would be outlawed.
It probably would.
Yeah, it's gonna. The optimism.
Actually, I think they have it in a can right now. Called Rockstar. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so what creation are you most proud of? And this is an obvious one, probably.
Well, Music Maker. I mean, come on. Like just the whole thing. The fact that I can't even. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just Music Maker and getting this thing off the ground, and then doing it again, because we got to get it done at least 5 times total, just so we can get the first arc out of the way. But yeah, it was the first one. We didn't know. It's not that we didn't know what we were doing. We just didn't have any set goals, because there was no watermark. There was no standard that we had to meet. But by the time issue 2 has been rolling around, it's like, oh damn, this is gonna be hard. Okay, all right, let's try this again. All right, let's do this. Okay, so and doing it, and now currently working on 3. It's one of those things where it's like, we will get it done, everything, and we want it to go on for a decent amount of time. But that will all be, it will be dependent on like how much we can get done, how it's not an issue of whether we work well together, because I think we work amazing together, but it's definitely going to be an issue of like, it's going to be time. It's going to be time, and it's going to be, if this takes like, the next 10 years, that's something we both want to commit to. And I don't know, it's too early to say whether it is or it isn't, but I mean, that's definitely going to be something that we're proud of, and we're going to make sure it comes to like a nice conclusion if it does conclude after the 5. So,
well, let me ask a quick question. Going on, because one thing I know, I'm a salesperson, unfortunately, and sales solve problem. So one thing I know that helps these types of things is sales. So I definitely want to take this opportunity to make sure that you plug anywhere and everywhere that people can support you and Music Maker, where they can buy the comics, where they can get your merch. I mean, let's plug some places right now for you, please. Tell us some names of places where they can find you.
All right, awesome. Okay, so definitely Twitter, as a lot of you probably are like tuning in from Twitter. Music Maker Comics with an X, and Music Maker Comics again with an X. .com is where you can get the tangible versions of the comic books before we hopefully before like the cons start up again. You'll be able to get a copy of that and be able to read issues 1 and 2, and then we're going to have issue 3 available. But for the tangible comics, you will go to musicmakercomics.com, and then you can find our Facebook page, and follow me on Twitter, and yeah, those are our 3 avenues and everything. And we're gradually starting to make some merchandise. We're going to have some Music Maker symbol logo pins, and we're going to have like a couple of t-shirts and everything that have either again, kind of a spoiler, kind of the one image of, spoiler alert, the one image of Madison, the skull kind of one, and so that we were thinking about making, thinking about making that into a t-shirt, and then because that's again, it's like a lot of this is dependent on when the cons start up again, because we want to get that We want to be talking to the fans and everything, you know.
Well,
but yeah, that's it.
And be sure to be open to the virtual cons, because those are starting to happen.
Yeah.
I'll get you more work info on CouchCon, because you know,
right.
we can't let the slowdown of whatever's crazy going on in the world stop us from helping creators make money. All right, we got to support our creators. We got to get out there.
Yeah.
You know, we need picket signs. We need lines. We need people lining up at the comic book shops, supporting these people. Please.
Yeah.
Please.
And that's awesome.
And to be clear, real quick, since somebody's got to do it and keep them in check, that was not an announcement for any type of digital convention.
No, not at all. Probably. No. So let me reiterate. Let me reiterate those links. It's Facebook, Music Maker Comics with an X.
Yes.
Twitter, Music Maker Comics with an X, and then Music Maker Comics with an X.com.
Yep.
Yes,
and
that's
I'm throwing links to all those right into the chat, so anybody can go and check it out.
Thank you.
All right, awesome.
See, that's why he's so awesome, and I don't even know. You know, I'm like, hey man, we need to make sure everybody hears this, and he's got it written down. Boy, I look really smart now. No, I'm just kidding. That's so awesome. That is so awesome. So I mean, I love your comic. I really am a dig. I really want to see number 3. I just can't wait to continue the story. It's the whole ambiance of it was spectacular, just spectacular.
Thank you.
The way you used all the different mediums, you and your team are fabulous. The end product really shows the dedication and what you guys have gone through. So again, thank you for delivering us. So
I gotta plug someone really quick too. We recently brought in a letterer for issue for issue 3. Matthias Zanetti. I know I'm mispronouncing his name horribly, but you can find him on Twitter, and you can also find him, I think, on Facebook as well. And and he's brilliant. He brings the artistry to that art form. He really knows what he's doing. So it's going to be really fascinating to see how he approaches issue 3. So,
well, and just to give anybody who might not understand the importance of this, Malveaux and M. Scott and a lot of people, writers and creators of the comic book industry have given me understanding as to how important the layout and lettering is when you're telling a comic, and how much it affects the experience and the flow of the story. And before, I didn't really understand it at all, probably because the only thing I ever saw was Marvel and DC comics as I was growing up through time, the ones that people had like duplicates of because they'd let me read. But I've had the chance to see that, and it is incredible how much a difference good lettering makes in the flow of the story on the page after you take it all in.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that was one thing where I was like, it was, and it was pretty much just me doing it before, like, and I thought I was doing a pretty decent job and everything. And then I saw his work, and I was like, whoa, I suck.
That's awesome.
Like, wow, this really put me in my. You know what? I take it back. You know what? I'm on board. You want to do this? Yeah, that's awesome.
That's incredible to me, because you consider it such a small part of the whole storytelling in a comic book, and like you would think, and I made this mistake. You would think insignificant, and really what it is foundationally important.
Oh yeah. Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, that's freaking that's that's incredible. All right. So do you have any thoughts about the comic book industry?
Like, gosh, I've probably got like 1 million and everything, and they're all negative.
Oh, okay.
Now.
Let's do this.
Hey, this is great. Let's hear it. I'm ready.
Yeah.
No, they're not and everything. It's just like, I think it's gotten to the same way in a respect that the film industry has become, in a sense, in that there is so much money in it now that it's really difficult for like small little creative projects to really get the kind of, and I'm not even talking about us necessarily, but to get the kind of exposure that they usually deserve. And and I think a large part of that is because, San Diego Comic-Con has become this, well, up until, this year, become this massive, like, money giant. Like, to get tickets is ridiculous now. And it's a lot more about the sellability of certain IPs. And that's really problematic, because it's not to say that, these smaller little indie projects wouldn't be great sellers, or they wouldn't be, they wouldn't make gazillions of money, but they're not really given the opportunity to find out, because it would mean it would mean gambling on a new piece of art, so to speak. So, I mean, I'm not really that keen about where the comic book industry is. I still love it. I still love comics. I still love indie as well as mainstream comics. That's never going to change. I would like to see more. I would like to see, first of all, since the one good thing about all that money is that it adds a bit of respectability to the medium that it didn't have before. Like like you can go and you can say you want to go into comics and everything, and it carries a little bit more weight with it, but it still doesn't make it any easier. And it used to be, I think, significantly easier to break into that industry than it is now because of all the money. So those are my views.
It's interesting. Go ahead, Matt.
I was gonna ask, you're talking about how it's harder now to break into the industry. Do you have any advice for those people trying to break in?
Don't wait for permission. It's easier to beg forgiveness than to ask permission, is the way I go about it.
Sorry for the spoiler alert. What?
Yeah. But don't wait for permission to be a creative person. Just like you start from the ground up. Even if you're just drawing it yourself, writing it yourself, you can't get it. Which, the way people are connected now, there's no reason why you cannot find your ideal artist, and you can't find your ideal letter, or you can't find your ideal writer. There's no real reason why you have to be doing it all on your own and doing it out of like your book bag at school. So yeah, like it's harder to break into it, to make, I guess, probably more accurately, it's hard to break into it and make money off of it than it is to actually go out and create a comic. You can go out and create a comic. It's going to be a challenge to get people, to read it if they haven't like heard of your idea,
What do you think? What do you think is the hardest part for people breaking into the industry? Why is it so hard for people to make money in the industry? What do you think that problem is?
It's because, well, I mean, the way I think of it is that artists aren't necessarily, until they get to be a certain point, and this goes with like visual artists as well, fine artists, painters, and things like that. Until you get like your patrons, until you get like some muscle behind you, like usually coming from another source, people don't take it seriously, and people don't value it the way that they should. Like, people shell out, I think tens of thousands of dollars, probably more, for like a Kandinsky or a Monet, but someone who is just equally talented but just coming up like in the past 10 or 20 years probably is going to have a much harder time of it, unless like the right museum or the right person or the right patron says, hey, you should be paying attention to this. So I think it's like, it might be a cultural thing more than anything else, that in this culture we don't value artists. Yeah.
So the power of distribution is held by an elite few.
Yeah.
Hashtag Illuminati is real, folks.
Hey, conspiracy if you can. Oh no, wait, no, it's not a theory. If you can, no, wait, no, it's a conspiracy. I can't remember.
We might have lost him.
Anywho,
ladies and
thank
gentlemen.
you, Illuminati. I already figured out how it's Carol Baskin. It's all tied to Carol Baskin. You guys don't even know.
Oh no, he's going with that.
No, I know.
Yeah, don't even.
So
me. I figured it out. I know who rules the New World Order. Okay, I figured it out. All right.
Oh.
So are you saying that the people with the influence aren't putting the spotlight on creators?
They're not putting on the spotlight on unproven people is the way it goes, and you can't even blame them necessarily, because okay, let me put it this way: a Superman movie is going to initially make way more than the Music Maker movie, based off of the criteria that everyone knows who Superman is.
You know what, though? I'm going to say that your mustaches are far more believable.
What? What'd you say, Fry?
The mustaches in Music Makers are much better. Much better. So, I think on that merit alone, you've got a fighting chance. Right?
On that merit alone, yeah, we might, you know what, we might be able to take over the world just on the merits of, hey, couldn't do worse with a mustache is all I'm saying, But
now, see, I think some of the problem originates from the fact that people are unwilling to give fresh things new looks.
Yeah, and that's a very human thing.
Well, it's a very human thing, maybe. I don't know. We're all human, and we're doing something totally different. We're giving all the new things fresh looks, and we're trying to broadcast that to the world. We're like, we don't want to limit you to foot traffic and have you starve to worship us for our comics when we feel like giving them to you. No, we're going to bring you everybody, and who you resonate with. Enjoy.
So,
yeah.
I'm going to circle the conversation back just a couple of steps here. You'd brought up, conventions and things like that. We actually had plans to meet up with you there in Florida for a convention. I believe we're going to meet up.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. At, what was it? MegaCon? Or WonderCon? Which one? I don't know. We had a lot we were supposed to be going to. So what have you been doing since the conventions have all been closing?
It's been stuff like this. It's been like everything has been kind of shifted to the digital realm, and it's been just kind of hitting the pavement and taking this time and not wasting it in just because I can't go to cons and just because I can't really interact with fans. Just working more on the creative aspects of it, and then getting brainstorming about things that I normally would not have enough time to brainstorm about, like merchandising and things like that. So we're not going to be doing that right away and everything, because we still want to build up our following so that it actually is worth the time and effort that we're going to put into it. But I've been focusing on that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Yeah
that's very cool. Are you guys going to do a
Nice.
live concert series? That's what I really want to know.
Oh man, that would be so awesome. We might, if we can get enough of the people who've lent their music to Music Maker, and we can get them together and everything, that would be fantastic if we could do that. I would love it.
Yeah, that would be cool. Very cool.
So
to catch up on,
I have a question. Can you use soundtracks like Pantera and other stuff like that, like Red Hot Chili Peppers and?
No. That's one thing about Music Maker that has forced us to be a bit more creative, is that we have to make sure that it's not someone who is gonna have Dirty Deeds or TNT or AC/DC or Red Hot Chili Peppers. Those guys, the way I put it is that those guys don't need us and they don't want us, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I honestly feel better about exposing a maybe small, I guess, well, I don't even want to say smaller, but I guess slightly lesser known act to a lot of people who are reading this comic, as opposed to something that people have already heard and already know about.
Right on.
So, yeah. So
that's awesome. That's even 10 times and 100 times better. Well, now is any of the music in your issues right now? Is any of it custom to Music Maker or?
Yes. The music for issue 1 was by Society of the Silver Cross, and the Green Man kind of theme that we're gonna bring that up again at a later point in the story. But that was custom made, and then the music for issue 4 is going to be custom made as well, because it's very specific to the story, and it wasn't that we didn't have any bands that weren't willing. We did, but nothing really fit the exact tone that we really needed, so we figured that we'd have to just do it custom. So yeah.
Nice.
I also love the fact that you give a shout out to Mozart on the back cover.
You're so killer.
Rock on, Mozart.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome, Malveaux. Well, hey, we're at the top of the hour, so I just want to say super thank you to SK Malveaux of Music Maker Comix for coming on and talking to us, crazy people at CryptoComix.com. Be sure to check out all of her social medias and follow and like and subscribe to all of hers and our social medias and keep up with us, because we're going to make it for creators so that they can show their comics to the world. There is no limit to foot traffic anymore. So thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Malveaux, for being here with us. M. Scott Russell, Fry, thank you, guys.
Yep, and just to let everybody know that's watching the stream, we do have a link up in there, cryptocomics.com/u/musicmakercomics. If you go to that link, you're going to see what's on the screen right now, which is the open invitation event. You'll be able to sign up and check out these comics yourself. Definitely check out the soundtrack.
I want to draw attention to that real quick. Right now, you have the opportunity to join the Crypto Comics Marketplace using cryptocomics.com/u/Music Maker Comics.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be able to go to Malveaux's profile page, which showcases music makers. And you can actually, right at the top there'll be a nice sign up, and you can click there and you'll actually be able to sign up. If you sign up underneath Malveaux, you're actually going to be helping Malveaux through the Comic Book program, which is fantastic. So please join the marketplace and support creators, because that's what it's all about, guys. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Malveaux, you are wonderful.
He never blows me kisses anymore.
Have you seen you, man? Come on, dude. I never blew you.